Hi guys, this is probably one of the simplest videos that I've made and maybe one of the shortest, but also, and I always say this, but it is super important. And this topic was actually brought up to me by Danielle Petruzzelli, so I thank her for that during a recent podcast episode of the Burning Desire show, which you can find on YouTube or Spotify, wherever you're listening or watching this. It'll be in a similar place. And that is about setting boundaries. And I talked about something similar related to this a couple episodes back when I described kind of like struggling to switch off or learning to kind of switch off. And I think setting boundaries is really obviously goes hand in hand with that. And particularly in today's world where we are or can be 24/7, more and more people, even if you're working for a company or working from home, have got laptops, have got work mobile phones and all the rest of it. And so there's actually, or there can be, very, very little break between your work and the rest of your life. And particularly for me, being a watch trader, WhatsApp is pretty much where everything takes place. And I could literally be on my phone 24 hours, 7 days a week, and I could do more deals and I could make more money and all the rest of it. But then for what? Then your mental health suffers, you don't sleep as well, you're more stressed out, and you have no break and you don't have any time to really enjoy the fruits of your labor, I suppose. So when it comes to setting boundaries, I don't personally go, right, I've worked 2 hours or I've worked 9 till 6, 9 till 5, or whatever the case may be. Therefore, I'm done. I just take again, I've discussed this before, but I have like an internal thermometer where I'll just go, all right, enough for today. And sometimes that's an hour, sometimes that's 5 hours, sometimes that's 10 minutes. Sometimes I will just quickly check and go, if I can get a deal done and it's going to take me a few minutes, then sure, I'll do it. But I will also recognize that often you think, oh, if I just look at that one message, it'll only be a second. And before you know it, you've then looked at 10 messages and it's been half an hour or an hour. And that time that you had allocated, for want of a better phrase, to just watch Netflix or watch me on YouTube or listen to some music or read a magazine or a newspaper or something just to relax, that has been eaten into by your just, oh, I'll quickly look at this message or I'll quickly look at that message. And the other very important point about setting boundaries is if you become known as somebody who is constantly, available and answers their WhatsApp messages in my world very, very quickly, which is something that you would want to be, right? Most people want to be reliable and swift with their actions. However, if you're known for 24/7 being available, then all of your clients or people that are in your world expect you then to be available all the time. And when you're not, you don't live up to their expectations. So that's something to be very, very careful of. And on the business WhatsApp, you can actually say, set an away message between certain hours that says thanks for your message, or you can personalize it, of course. That's pretty useful. Or you just get to a point where just by your actions people realize, right, after a certain time or before a certain time, I'm not available. See, I remember now, I'm thinking about this when I worked for Tesco in the head office over in Welwyn Garden City outside London. There was a pretty senior director and we had one of these off-site days, and he gave this kind of talk about I don't think it was entitled setting boundaries, but it effectively was that. And he said, never schedule a meeting with me over lunch, never put one first thing in the morning, never put one last thing at night. And if you do, there better be a good reason for it. And people knew that, so they never would kind of, set meetings in those time periods. Except one occasion where his senior director called him up, and it was, I think, Christmas Eve or something. And he knew that by that phone call, it was something that was an emergency that needed to be dealt with. Because he'd set his boundaries, if someone then would break those boundaries, there would have to be a significant reason for doing so. And that's really important. So yeah, everyone's different. It's not always a certain time frame. It's sometimes, I don't know, like you have to figure out yourself where you draw the line as to whether it's a certain time in the evening you don't respond to messages after, whether it is weekends that you're unavailable, whether it is you take a week off every month. I don't know. But find something that works for you that protects your mental health and well-being. Because without that, at the end of the day, we've talked about this before with health v wealth as one of the topics. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't matter how much you're earning. If you're not mentally healthy, everything else is pointless. So set your boundaries, set your stall out, and wish you a good week.